Built in the 1870s to serve the booming mining towns of Georgetown and Silver Plume, the Georgetown Loop was truly one of the engineering marvels of its time. The line rises over 600 feet between the two towns, making several sharp curves and actually loops back over itself to negotiate the grade in this spectacular valley. The scenery, the engineering, the history are fantastic, but it's the sights and sounds of the steam locomotives that steal the show. Climb on board now for the fun and excitement of America's historic steam railroad. Here now is the Georgetown Loop Railroad.
Oh, right, right.
There is a romance about a teenager, and a teenager can be very, very quiet when it is not under steam. And because, it is an artifact from the past, I think people tend to really enjoy it. But when it comes under steam, then it becomes alive and has personality, and people can relate to that. And it has sound that starting with very young children, they can emulate those sounds and identify with the steam.
Operating a short line or steam first line, it's got its own sets of rewards, it's got its own sets of challenges. It started out as an adventure. There was a lot of fun in building something, but once it was built and the excitement of things happening in the way of laying track, getting railroad equipment, things like this, then it became a business.
It is a family operation, and that's rather gratifying.
What started out to be what you might have called a love of our lives is still something we are very fond of, but we're very much in business. You're going to be able to a little bit.
The Colorado State Historical Society owns all of the land and the trackage and buildings, and all the railroad equipment itself, the locomotives and the cars and that sort of thing, is owned by the Georgetown Loop Railroad, and it is operated under a concessionaire's agreement. The shop building is also owned by the state, and that's included in the agreement where we can do all our maintenance in the shop. Because the railroad operates for 3 months during the summer, and the whole rest of the year, the railroad keeps a crew of guys here in the shop working on the engines and cars to keep them operating. Always got bearings to rebuild and replace and gears to work on, and of course none of this is stock off the shelf items. If we need new parts, they have to be manufactured from scratch. Definitely more than a job, and when you step back and look at some of the things that we have to do to keep these operating, I think it has to be more than a job, because some of the things, particularly on the locomotive, work and working on this grubby, horrible, greasy mess down here is pretty distasteful work, I would think, that most people do. And so I think that there has to be something more spurring you on in order to make you want to do this. Not only are steam locomotives a challenge and interesting to work on, but they're a challenge and interesting to operate also, in that directly translated it how the engine operates.
It doesn't matter. Run plane. Run plane.
In this day and age, I would say mainly because there are still so many of them still operating. And it's definitely a tribute to the design and the people who built it. Locomotive has a boiler on it filled with water, and then at the rear end of the boiler there's a firebox where you can burn whatever you like. Locomotives generally burn either coal, wood, or oil, and this generates heat to make steam. And steam is drawn off then into cylinders where it just the pressure of the steam and the expansion qualities of the steam is makes the cylinder go back and forth, and through this mechanism it's translated into motion. Generally, when you're running, you fall pretty much into a routine of operating the brakes and that sort of thing, but at any particular time, something unexpected could happen. The whistle is used as a signaling device and as a warning device. It is a warning to people or animals or whatever who are on the track. It also signals to the crew on the train what the engineer intends to do. There's a sense of gratification and pride when you go around the corner and look back and you see the train following you down all full pack of people. Definitely a feeling.
This is Georgetown Loop. Revolves around the spiral that is called the loop where the train crosses over itself. It was considered quite a engineering marvel as well as a science marvel. What made the Georgetown Loop really famous was all the spirals and circles of track, of continuous track to reach that distance between Georgetown and Silverpool. The mining camps were in the mountains, and so narrow gauge afforded a much cheaper way of just being winding around the hills and climbing a much steeper grade than you could with the old standard gauge. Narrow gauge tracks are only 3 feet apart between the rails, compared to standard gauge, which is 4 feet 8.5 inches, and was claimed to be the distance between the chariot wheels of the old Roman chariot. The grades between Georgetown and Silverpool really did make it an engineering marvel. They averaged 3.5 to 4 feet wide per 100 feet, 1% grade, 3.5 to 4% grades were quite steep, and it was necessary along with the curves to compress a lot of track, a lot more length of track within the 2-mile air distance. You will often get cold steamers, probably in the diesel that replace all steam locomotives, and that's why we have one of them up here in Wheelock. It does everything.
Yeah, that train is coming. It's going around the bend. I've seen sunshine since I don't know when.
You can just climb into it and eventually push a button and start the engine, and it's ready to go in 10 minutes or 6 hours for the steam engine. We were doing this morning, the tank car was on the sidetrack over there, needed to be brought in, worked on it. So that's what we did. We just went over, picked it up, and put it inside the house.
loop is like writing back in history because we do not have railroads that are like this in the States other than having been recreated from a historical railroad. And the locomotives are historical. The information given by the conductors is historical. So it is a step back into history for a brief time.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the George Railroad. For those of you who may be wondering if we're going the wrong way, we really aren't. We backed away from the depot for the simple reason that the valley here is just so narrow we can't turn the train around. So on our downhill trip, we put the engine at the rear of the train and he'll pull us down the hill. And at the bottom of the hill, we'll put the engine on the front of the train and he'll pull us back up the valley. The railroad that you're riding on this morning is a reconstructed portion of the old Georgetown, Breckenridge, and Leadville Railway. You may have noticed those initials, TBNL, on the side of the cars. The first railroad in the area was the Colorado Central Railroad. It began construction in Denver in 1870. It came west following Clear Creek, which is the little stream you see alongside of us here. It passed through the town of Idaho Springs, finally reaching Georgetown in 1877. About the turn of the century, this became the Colorado Southern Railway, and on the mountain side of the train here, you'll see a little spur track with a red locomotive. That's engine number 9 of the old Colorado Southern Railway, one of only 5 narrow gauge Colorado Southern engines still in existence. As I mentioned, this was the subway rack line from Denver, but it wasn't a very profitable line back in the early days, bringing miners, their families, and supplies up to the mountain communities, and taking the rich ore back to the Denver and Golden area to be processed. This continued until the silver panic of 1893, when the price of silver dropped so low that no one could mine it and make a profit at it. It caused most of the mines here in the upper Clear Creek Valley to close, as this was primarily a silver-producing region. Fortunately for the railroad, this loss of freight revenue was more than offset by a large increase in tourism. As the fame of the Georgetown Loop spread throughout the country and even the world, thousands of people were coming to ride on what was considered a scenic and engineering marvel of the 19th century. The heavy tourism continued on into the early 1900s. However, as they improved the roads in the area and built more dependable automobiles, folks turned to their own cars for their pleasure and business trips to the mountains instead of riding the train. They did operate 2 or 3 freight trains a week until the late 1930s. Finally, in 1938, they did petition the state to abandon the line. The petition was granted. In 1939, the rails and bridges from Silver Plum to Idaho Springs were taken up and sold for scrap. Our story would have ended there, as it did for many of Colorado's early mountain railroads. Except in the 1960s, the Highway Department began planning to build the interstate right up the middle of this valley. It would have destroyed our railroad grade in the mining district. The Colorado Historical Society felt that history should be preserved. They were successful in getting the Highway Department to locate the interstate over on the side of Republican Mountain where you see it today. With that done, they began rebuilding the railroad in 1973, starting at Silver Plume. By 1975, we were able to operate our first train. We've run every summer since then. In 1984, with a grant from the Veterans Foundation of Denver, they rebuilt the high bridge from the mountain to the canyon, and this is now our 9th season of running over the entirely rebuilt loop. As we round this curve called High Hill, you'll have one of your best scenic views on the line. As soon as you're clear of the trees, to the outside of the curve, on the right as you face the locomotive, you'll see the high bridge across the mountain to the canyon, and beyond the glimpse of Georgetown. On the inside of the curve, you photographers and rail fans, a nice shot of engine number 14. As we continue around the curve, we're going to be entering a cut in the mountainside. You might notice the rock retaining walls in here. These walls were hand-built in the 1880s when the line was first constructed. You'll notice that they used no mortar, but they did such a fine job of fitting and placing these rocks. They've been there now for over 100 years with very little maintenance. A real tribute to the skill of the workmen of that day. As we come out of the cut, we are going to be stopping now at 11 on Nice. First stop. Taking the line for literally way over there for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh.
taking on a tour of the outbuilding. Our original stuff was mine manager's house, changed it. And then you would see the part of the old Lebanon mill that was still undergoing restoration. And you would walk around the underground, literally hundreds of interstate seven, so it's kind of a leather walk where it's well lit inside, nice big view, describe the mining of the area.
We're often asked about the equipment we use here on the loop. Our train today is being powered by locomotive number 14. This engine was built back in 1960 by the Lima Locomotive Works. It's a rather unusual geared engine called the Shay, S-H-A-Y, after its inventor, Mr. Ashland Shay. The locomotive has 3 vertical boilers mounted on the right-hand side to power the engine and tender. All the wheels are geared off this drive line. Tremendous pulling power, but very little speed. It burns fuel oil that converts the water in the boiler into steam, and steam is what makes everything.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it is.
Wonder the modern world.
Bridge, it has curves, and so as the engines are on the bridge, it will iterate the curve, and you can see the bridge pretty much while you are on it. It's really just for watching the bridge.
You might take a real good look at the bridge. It is an almost exact replica of the original high bridge. That original bridge was built in the winter of 1883 and 84. It was made of cast and wrought iron pieces resting on cut granite blocks. It cost $250,000, quite a sum of money in those days. In 1939, when the railroad was abandoned, the bridge was cut up for scrap and sold for only $450. This new bridge was built in the summers of 1983, completed in the summer of 1984. This was made of very modern heavy-duty steel resting on reinforced concrete. It is about 5 times stronger than the original bridge, which is very good because we do have heavier equipment now than they had in the old days. This particular bridge cost $1 million to build, which is a 4 times inflation factor over the original bridge. However, in that same 100-year period, everything else went up more than 4 times, so that's not bad at all. From the track we're on to the track on the top of the bridge will be a rise of 75 feet. When you get up there and look back down, remember it's still only 75 feet. It won't be any higher when you're looking down.
The railroad has 2 terminals. There's the Georgetown boarding area, or we sometimes refer to it as the Devil Gate boarding area. And then you can also board at the Silverton Depot. You can board at either end and get a easy round trip. In front of the old station, we have probably the first love of our life. This is 1944. It came from El Salvador. It was the first one to operate for us. And it operated many years with minor repairs and has finally just gotten tired. She has a very important part in front of us today. The old Georgetown station, where we have our offices, our gift shop, our cafe, and exhibit area, started out as the original Colorado and Southern Depot. It was built about 1877. The building has always been in this location. The area around it has changed drastically. We have a picture from the 50s where this was sitting out in the middle of the field. Today, it's a very active place again, with the exhibit showing pictures of Georgetown. There's a historical picture of the roof at the end of the building. In the gift shop is mainly railroad items, but you'll find also Colorado items we have an area that has a western artist, Raphael Lewis, and then Victor Bay. So when the real railroad was about people took the money as well as the model railroad as well.
The sound of a new locomotive working hard is pretty timeless and interesting as well as being surprisingly loud. It is a very beautiful area. I definitely enjoy looking out the windows and you don't really get tired of watching things go by. Rocky Mountain viewpoints are interesting in this area because we're right in the zone or the altitude where they like to be. So, and a lot of cases along the highway or the railroad come very close. You can see them right up close. Our riders on the train are generally tourists who are in the mountains for a day trip. They find it to be a pleasant way to see the scenery and experience the antique equipment.
Silver Plume is next. Silver Plume. As we arrive at our Silver Plume terminal, you might want to visit the old Silver Plume depot. Opposite Silver Plume looks like it did more than 100 years ago. There are train logs on the wall. On the desk is a coffee pot and cup, and of course the telegraph. Looks as if someone just used it yesterday.
I just love that big bridge that we just went over. I hope we come back next time. What I really like about this trip is the scenery and the narration and over at the bridge, looking down over the water. It's really pretty. Nice trip. It's just a great way to spend the day. There's a scenic overlook going eastbound between Silver Plume and Georgetown. And if you stop there, you get to see a live model railroad because you can see almost the entire railroad. When I stand on that scenic overlook, I probably look at it differently than the regular tourist because I have 20-some years of memories that crop up.
Husbands and wives live together so often. The public perception that the man is doing everything and the wife tolerating it, particularly when it involves the girl. Not the case with that. It's been from day one a total partnership of everything we do. There is no boss in the family of this. We're both equally responsible as well as manufacturing revolution.